Mike and Mine podcast. Hello, hello, Hudson Hot, Scotty Blaisdell, Alan Wagner, our resident therapist. Sunscreen, sippy cups, and sexy time. Is that even possible when you have kids?
Not naturally.
The sexy time. I'm sure the sippy cup, right? And trying to survive that vacation is not as easy sometimes as it looks when you look at the Instagram photos. You know, Scotty.
Yeah, I think we talked about one time we were at Disneyland and people saw the picture, but they didn't see what happened leading up to it or what happened after. Alan alluded that to that as well, that yeah, you could have drama going on, you could have meltdowns and blow-ups, uh, kids asking for things and you saying no and that causing a problem, and then you're like smile and everyone goes, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's that photo up on it, and everyone's like envious, like, look at this perfect
Yeah.
family. I look at everybody's perfect families, and again, like you, I remember going not too long ago, we went to Disneyland and the meltdown, because of the line to get the corn dog on a stick, like the whole thing. But then there's us, the photo. It's crazy epic. But I think that it's very difficult to go on a vacation with the kids and still have a romantic time with your partner. I thought we could talk about that and how to navigate it because we've all been there. We've done it. You're going to learn from experience. Ours.
Well, I mean, for me, uh, as the kids got older, it became a little different because you could leave them at the hotel and go have time. But if you're trying to save money and be frugal, you don't want to have multiple hotel rooms.
Hmm.
So
Right.
you end up sleeping in the same. So if you're not willing to pay up, it's really hard on a vacation to have that
Yes.
one-on-one time. But if you can leave them there and go off and have some time together, that's great. Or if you have friends or family in that area that can watch them and you have some time at the hotel,
Right.
whatever. But it does take work. As I said, it doesn't come naturally.
No, and you know what? And that's something good, right, Alan? I think that if you could do a group vacation with other friends, so
Hmm.
this way, you could take turns, rotate. You know what I'm saying? I got the kids. Listen, you guys go, get your sexy time on because women are immediately thinking fruity drinks, matching swimwear, and sexy time even though you've got the kids, but that's that our brains are just wired that way. And sometimes that isn't happening. I'm going to share a funny story with you. I was very excited. My first trip with Alan. Obviously, Alan, he likes an all-inclusive breakfast buffet hotel. This was
Yeah.
actually a really nice hotel that this was the only nice hotel I've ever stayed at with
Oh
Alan.
my God.
Okay. And that's how he hooked me too. Now I'm starting to think that was it. He
It
took
was a
us.
bait and switch.
It was bait and switch. It was because it was a really nice hotel in Monterey. And we had the kids and we got in the car. It was going to be this really special weekend. Alan had proposed that weekend. And so here we are, the four of us in this small hotel room, okay? Nice hotel on the wharf, but two beds, two double beds side by side. How? How is that going to be any kind of romantic weekend when you have that going on, right?
I think
How do you do it?
it's funny. I remember having this conversation with somebody that it's like when you're a teenager, trying to have sex without your parents knowing is a hard thing to do. And when you have kids, trying to have sex without your kids knowing is a hard thing to do.
It
And it's almost like
really
put you in the same position. It's like, do we have sex in the car? Do we, what, like, because you can't really just go home. And I know what you're saying about the hotel room, because most people, if you're a family of four, you're going to stay in one room and there's going to be two beds and unless you're a certain type of a couple, you're probably not having sex with the children in the room.
right.
So that can be definitely a little bit problematic. But yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. But there is always ways to sort of sneak out if you want to. It also depends on the ages of the kids because I think if you have like what you said about the going with other couples, that was a big thing. I remember at a time in my life where like a lot of couples would go to Vegas together, and there'd be like four couples. They would rent like an Airbnb or a VRBO or something like that, and they would rotate who would babysit the kids. So that one couple would be home with the kids on one particular night, and the kids would all do whatever and play and video games and have fun. And then the other three couples could go out, and it would just sort of rotate. So you each get like one night alone with no kids, but it's still better than 4 nights with kids in Vegas, probably. So there is an advantage to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I know what you mean. It becomes a lot of creativity, I think, when you're staying in a room with kids and you're an adult. But I mean, depending on the ages, like you said, if they're old enough that you can leave them, that's great. But if you're traveling with toddlers, it's hard. And I remember when my kids were really little, like my old boss telling me I can't remember where we were going, and he said, "You're going to need a vacation from your vacation."
Yep.
And he was absolutely right because you're traveling with strollers and car seats and
Oh,
gear and packing
all the
weight
gear,
and
like
and
12 bathing suits
and
and
they're on nap time, and so and whatever you're doing, you're going back to the room for their naps, and the whole vacation never felt like a vacation because you were supervising them the whole time.
yep.
You know, even as they get older, sometimes the circumstance, I'm going to give you a specific right here. I had never been on a cruise. I had we had considered it when we were going to have a honeymoon to do a cruise. So we thought, oh, we'll do it somewhere else down the road because it's very complicated getting on a flight, flying somewhere, getting on. So we finally got around to it like a year and a half ago. Okay. This is 28 years,
Wow. I
whatever.
remember you talking about always wanted to do a
Right.
cruise. Yeah.
So we plan it with our son and his wife and their little kids, and then next oldest son comes as well. I didn't do the planning. Apparently, to save money, he's in the room with us.
No, no, no,
Okay,
no.
so they have a little bunk that goes up above, and then you have a bed down here.
Oh, God.
So the whole time I am frustrated because here I am on the ocean having a nice meal, doing all these things.
Having the
We go
fruity
back,
cocktail.
and then he's like, at one point, some other folks invited him to go do something. And we're like, yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun, doesn't it? And he's like, nah, I'm kind of tired.
No,
We,
no.
so I told my wife, I go, if we cruise again, separate rooms. She goes, oh, I wasn't thinking about it. Because, yeah, I don't know. Maybe she just has different priorities.
No, I don't think she was probably thinking about it at that moment.
She
But
wanted to experience it and have him experience it and, being the mom, but not
right,
being the wife.
right. I know. Well, I mean, you could always go and sneak into a bathroom, you know what I'm saying? But not on a
Yeah, that's so sensual and sexy.
I know a cruise ship bathroom sounds amazing.
Romantic. Take a candle in there.
Oh,
Mm.
God.
Oh my gosh.
But
No, but
But
like
on that note, I think it was probably once the kids are over 3, if you're thinking about it, and they're potty trained and everything's fine. I remember for years going to like a vacation club in Mexico that was all inclusive, and they had a kids club. And I don't know if people listening are aware what those are, but when you go to all inclusives, and I'm not talking about the ones in the United States that are like the Comfort Inn breakfast, they're
right.
like literally all inclusives. Like they make you breakfast in the morning in Mexico, and then they have like snacks at the pool. It's unlimited drinks at the bar. The kids can just
Well,
keep.
Disney does this as well. Disney, a lot of their hotels will have a kids club.
Yeah, and then they have wristbands, and so the kids can go off and play video games. They can go off and do activities and win awards. And so it was really fun because they could meet friends. And so at a certain age, the kids are old enough to sort of they still have supervision there, but they can go off with friends, and you get a little bit of time to sit at the pool and read a book and not have to supervise. Or even if you know that they're going to be gone for a couple hours, you guys can go back to the room.
That's
So,
something you should consider when you're looking at these vacation spots to see
mhm.
if there is, or even see if there's like one of those sort of like little camps, mini camps they do for like people who are traveling, like certain like vacation spots. There are plenty of facilities that have like doggy daycare. You bring the kids, they take them out on the river, doing rafting, whatever, and even the little ones. It's almost like a babysitter that you can have for a day.
Well, I think as well, before you even head out on the trip, you should have that conversation of what do you want to get out of this vacation? What are you excited about? And see
Right.
if you're on the same page with each other, then you can solve those problems ahead of time.
Yeah. And I don't think people are really thinking about that because you're thinking about, oh my gosh, we're finally going on a vacation. Because it's not often that people are getting a chance. It's very expensive to do even, a week away when you've got a family of four, let's be honest. So
Yeah.
you're not thinking about, down the road, like sexy time at night with your significant other, although in your mind you're expecting that's going to happen, but it can't. So these are some things. Have you ever had some other funny moments like traveling with the fam? I
Oh,
feel like you do, Scotty.
I do. One of them, this is when they were little, smaller, and the most exciting thing in my son's life was the Nintendo DS.
Oh yeah.
And he had the little case for it, and he had the games in it and all of that. So we had visited my mom in Oklahoma City, went to the airport to drop off the rental car, and left that game system in the car. He had shoved it under the seat when we went to get something to eat so no one would steal it out of the car.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So we are about to board the plane when he realizes it. He wants us to not get on the airplane and go get the thing.
No.
So we're explaining to him we can't do that. That's not possible at this point. I'm sure someone will turn it in. So we end up flying to our next stop, calling, and of course they didn't see it.
Of course.
Hmm.
So now imagine this is early in the vacation. We had plenty of fun things planned, adventures and amusement parks. He never enjoyed a single minute of that vacation. All he did was be sad
Because
because he
yeah,
lost his DS.
the
And
whole
I wasn't the parent who goes, I'll buy you a new one because I think you got to learn to be responsible and understand what loss is. But at the same time, it
Yeah.
just destroyed our vacation.
oh my gosh. But I bet you got a photo of that vacation. Was he smiling maybe at least in one of the photos?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's
Oh
some of
yeah.
that. It's fake.
It's that's fake. That's a fake
But
smile.
I
And
like
you'll be
what
able to go back.
Well, I like what you said about the intentions of having that conversation because I actually was talking to a couple earlier today and they were talking about taking their first vacation without the kids. And the
Mm.
kids were going to be staying with grandparents and how excited they were. And so I wonder, like from your guys' perspective, when you're with little kids, are you even feeling sexy time or is it more just like Great Wolf Lodge and sippy cups and being dads and moms in those situations? Like, are you feeling sexy when you're around children? And so
Which
it's like, do you just accept that this is going to be a Disney vacation, a Great Wolf Lodge vacation, or some water park thing, and that you and your wife or your husband, are going to go do your own thing for a weekend, maybe up in wine country, or go to Vegas, or do something a little bit more romantic, but not. I mean, do people go into a family vacation thinking there's going to be sexy time, and are you even in that mindset?
I'm gonna let you answer first, Hudson.
um okay. I don't know if my head is there thinking this is going to be a sexy time vacation. We are staying at the Great Wolf Lodge, which, by the way, is a fantastic place. If you have little ones, have you ever been there, Scotty?
No, I see the commercials all the time here.
Oh, Alan went for a weekend. And again, if you got little ones, you could have fun, but do not think of any sexy time at all, okay? Because it's a gazillion tiny little kids screaming and crying and the water parks, and there's so many activities from the pizza, da, 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 but it's so like you're not thinking sexy time at
It's
that.
all about being with family. So you're saying you when you go on a vacation like that, you're not expecting it.
No, I'm not.
I I'm the same way because
Yeah.
if we go somewhere like for example, we went on that trip to visit Angie's family
Mhm.
recently in Arkansas, and we
Right.
had our older son with us, so we're sharing a hotel with him.
Right.
Then we get there, we're in her mom's house.
Yeah.
You know, it just wasn't it's too quiet and whatever. I just knew nothing was going to happen.
Yeah, like
It
Alan
wasn't.
and I are getting ready to go on vacation coming up, right? And we are going to be staying at my dad's house, which is great. I haven't seen my dad in a long time. So, but he's got the room all set up for us because he only has a small condo now. It's just him and my stepmom, and they don't need anything anymore. So they have a tiny condo. So he's set up our rooms with a double bed, and then around on the side of us, a little twin bed, and then around that corner, another bed. So like it's gonna be we're gonna be in this room with the kids the entire trip,
Yeah.
pretty much. Again, you know what I mean? So
So
there's
I
no
guess there's your answer. I guess it depends on the type of trip you're going on.
But I think you're bringing up an interesting topic, which is as adults, it's interesting how we pivot between our roles, and the different masks we wear as parents, as partners, as friends, as children of our parents. And, it's okay. Not everything is about sex and not everything's about family. You have to obviously plan romantic things and you have to plan family things. But exactly, if you're going into a situation with little kids and you're staying in the same room, I never have the expectation that anything's going to happen during a trip like that, except bonding, because there's only so much time you have with your kids before they're old enough and don't want to share a hotel or go on vacation with you anyway. So you might as well enjoy those times for what they are. But that just means if you're not going to be romantic on a trip like that, make sure that you guys are planning romantic trips with your partners so that at least you have it.
There you go. I think that's
I
good
like that.
advice
Yeah,
because
I think it is.
I think you put too much pressure on the vacation,
Yep.
and you need to have these other excursions, even if it's just a
Couple days.
Airbnb somewhere, or you go to a bed and breakfast and just get away for a weekend. Have those romantic times. Make sure you're where you need to be with each other, or you're never going to be what you need to be for your kids, in my opinion.
And
No,
you
I
know for your
agree with that,
kids.
Scotty.
No, and I think, but by doing romantic things, you're teaching your kids that that's what a husband and wife does. And I think you want your kids to have healthy relationships where they see, an affectionate couple, or they see, but not in person, not in the hotel room at the Comfort Inn, watching
Nick,
mom and dad get it on, outside
yeah,
of
nobody's doing that.
yeah. It's like we're leaving for SeaWorld in an hour. Just hold on a second. Your mom and I are busy.
My gosh.
Oh, please.
Dude, Alice.
So I think another thought for vacation, and I think this is really important, is don't plan it to be perfect. Plan
Hmm.
it with plenty of room to maneuver and have adventures. Even if things don't go right, you're having an adventure.
Yep.
And just roll with things because your kids will vibe off of that and how they act in life when things don't go their way. They're learning on these trips when you're together. If you're the stressed out, it's got to be that we got to get there by this time and we've got to blah, then
Yep.
they're gonna feel that's the way life needs to be perfect.
Nope, I will tell you this, and I'll bring it up again in case you didn't hear this particular episode. We had gone out to North Carolina, stayed at this incredible hotel that Alan chose for us called the Comfort Inn, all-inclusive breakfast. And when we had gotten there, somebody had left some remnants on the sheets, okay? And it was like mind blowing to me. I wanted to leave. I had a complete meltdown. Complete meltdown. I wanted to leave immediately. It wound up, we switched rooms. We wound up becoming this gentleman's name at the front desk, Frank. Okay. He became a regular name used in our conversation throughout the entire trip. And for the very first time, I learned to roll with it, which is something I don't think I have ever done before. I'm just not that person.
And now it's a family story, isn't it?
And now we can't. So, what irony is, my postman, who works at the local post office, his name is Frank. So we have all these Frank jokes and references, all because of that trip. And that was the weekend that I went white. I went water in the one of those river. What is it called? The lazy
The
rivers.
lazy river.
Right. I've never done that in my life, and I
First
wound
time in a water park to
up.
really be in a
I
water
mean,
park.
I've been to a water park, but I've never gotten in the tube in a bikini and cruised around, my feet dangling in the pee water. But I got past it and I did it. And it turned out to be one of the best times ever. Even went to Hooters and had some wings. That's how crazy of a week it was.
Yeah. I
You
like
roll with it, baby.
I
Yeah.
like what Scotty's saying. I actually do encourage couples when they're dating. I don't think you really, as long as you're have a lot of activities to keep you distracted, you never really know if a person is really compatible with you. But when you're stuck in the car with them for a long period of time, you learn a lot about them. And I don't know if there's ever been a vacation that I've ever taken, whether it's road trip or plane, where everything has been perfect. Whether it's the room or the car broke down or overheated or we ran out of gas or the tire blew out or something was sold out when we got there. There's always problems. And if you can't roll with a problem like what you're saying, Scotty, and just make it into an adventure, you're going to have a terrible time. And I always feel so bad. I hear these stories from couples sometimes where something happens on the first day of a week-long trip and the person never recovers. And you spent all this money and you took the time off work and this is such an opportunity for a family to connect or a couple to connect. And over one stupid thing, like the person forgot to sign up for the a la carte restaurant for dinner on Wednesday, and it just becomes the ruined trip where someone just stays in the room and doesn't go out. And I think you got to roll with stuff as an adult. Nothing's predictable.
Yeah, and I think again, if you're with kids, they're going to learn how to roll with things when you're on these trips. It really is one of those times in life that you look back on as an adult. You remember a lot of those vacations, and a lot of times you don't remember all the details, but you know what the vibe was. Was
Yep.
it was it a good trip, or did you feel stressed, or did your parents get angry? My example, like of what you talked about, Hudson, was and big time rolling with it. Again, we were in Oklahoma City visiting my mom. Then we flew to Denver, and then the next step was Las Vegas, and we were going to hang out in Vegas for a while. So Oklahoma City, it was the day that Farrah Fawcett passed away, if you remember that. Years ago, Farrah Fawcett from Charlie's Angels, and it was on the news. It's all on the TVs in the airport. So we
Right.
were talking about that as we flew. Then we got to Denver. Michael Jackson had passed away, same day. Everything had switched over to that, and it was like this thing. But we're also jamming to try to get to our plane. We get to our plane. Long story short, our plane is not going to take off. It's not just late, it's not moving, it's not coming today because of a storm,
Mhm.
and you're not going anywhere. Now, the question is, are there other flights? Of course not. Everybody was in this situation.
Right.
If you want to go to a hotel, you have to pay for it yourself because this is an act of nature, not a mechanical problem.
Yep.
Right.
And if you want to be on standby, you need to be here as early as you can. The first flight is like 6 in the morning. So we decided as a family that we are going to spend the night in the airport.
Hmm.
No.
So we
Sleeping
curled
there?
up, huh?
Sleeping
What's
in the chairs?
no, we ended up on the floor because the
Uh-huh.
chairs have the little bar. So we're cuddled up as a family with our only our carry-on stuff, plugged in our stuff, our phones and stuff, and then tried to sleep the whole time, hour upon hour upon hour. The TV, Michael Jackson died. Michael Jackson died. Michael. It was like, it was like some sort of I don't know what you do to terrorists when you're trying to break them down or something
Oh,
on the loudspeaker.
yeah, it's like some kind of torture. I forgot what it's called.
There was a point and we were about the only ones in there. There's one military guy, those moving sidewalks. He
Yeah.
was going one way, turning around, going the other way, just
Yeah.
turning like pacing without walking.
Yeah.
So, but we ended up catching the early flight the next day and whatever. But we always reference that for the rest of our lives and their lives. They'll
Michael
always
Jackson.
have that.
Michael
We
Jackson
rolled with it.
died. And yeah, and you guys
Yeah.
had to sleep at the airport. Alan, come on, you did a lot of traveling. You must have some crazy stories.
Oh yeah. I mean, look, I've slept at the airport like Scotty before. I know exactly what he's talking about, where it's not even
Kids?
worth going to a hotel because to go leave the airport and then come back to the airport and for a few hours of sleep, it's not even worth it. So you just crash at the airport, which I have 100% done before. But yeah, no, I think when you're on a vacation, you've got to be willing to roll with the fact that things are going to go badly. And how you handle it will determine a lot about you, and I've lost a computer on a plane and I remember having it shipped, but it didn't let it affect me. I think one of the worst times was I remember going, it was actually this was not with kids, but it was like a romantic trip to Contadina, which is an island off of Panama. And they lost our luggage. And so it's like you arrive there and you have no clothes. And so you're in this beautiful island and a beach, but you have no bathing suit, no clothes, just the clothes you're wearing, like, and having to buy all new clothes and then fight with the airport. But you have a choice in those situations, It's like you can just buy the cheap bathing suit and go to the beach and just hang out and wait for your clothes to come if they come, or you can complain and be angry. And I really like people who roll with it. I don't think vacations, I think people in general are unpredictable. I always say that about drive-throughs too. It's like when you go to a drive-through, you hope the order's right, but how often is it
It's a
wrong?
50-50.
You know?
That's
And
right.
I think that if you look at vacations the same way, you won't be upset. But I like to think of it like you said, as an adventure. So when things go wrong and you miss a flight and you end up staying somewhere that you didn't expect to stay, or you have, semen on sheets at a comfort inn, these are the things you can laugh about later. I think, some of the silly stuff that happens when you're on vacation. But I do know people who are very, very type A, and when there's one thing that goes wrong, it just spins them out and they never recover.
Yeah. Trust me, it took me a couple hours to unwind from that scenario with
Oh,
the,
yeah.
you
Oh, I
know,
remember being in Mexico, and I think one of the crazy things was, my kids were sort of little, and they had these sea kayaks, and the person's like, "Oh yeah, they can take them out," and there was really the water had a very strong like undertow, and so we're on the sea kayaks and we start to get pulled out. And you realize that when you're in another country, there's not people really watching you. So you're kind of on your own, And then we keep thinking like that there's someone at the hotel that's going to come save us, but there wasn't. And I remember we were like floating out to sea, floating out to sea, floating out to sea. And finally, a person came on a catamaran and found us and was able to like pull us back to the hotel. And as scary as that was in a way, I still think about that and laugh. We were never in danger. It was just one of those experiences that's way more memorable sometimes than just being in a pool.
It's funny how they'll let you take things like that without
and it's
having really any training or skills. It's kind of like when you rent a U-Haul. They
Yep.
just hand you the keys and say, "Here's a giant truck. You've never driven anything like this in your whole life. Good
like,
luck.
yeah.
You want
No,
the
it's true.
insurance?"
Well, do you know what also I think is a fun thing to do if you're at a safe place and it's sort of like a resort where the kids can't really get out and hopefully the kids are, let's say, above the ages of 5, 6, 7. Sometimes people bring like their PlayStation or they bring their Xbox and they plug it into the hotel room and the kids can play for, not that you want them playing all the time, but if you do want to just get a break with your partner and let them play for an hour, sometimes they just get bored doing the things grown-ups like to do. They don't want to just sit there and read a book by the pool. It's boring. And so if you can bring entertainment, I'm not a person who wants to put kids on screens, but sometimes you have to sort of think ahead if you're going to be in the car with kids. How are you going to keep them busy? Are you going to sing songs? Are you going to pick out cars like when we were a kid? Or are they going to watch movies? But it does change things. I'm a fan though of the split of what we're talking about, which is there's a family vacation and then there's a romantic vacation. And I think if you are trying to make them into one vacation, you'll probably fail.
So should I bring my PlayStation on the romantic vacation?
Oh, that would work out well for you, Scotty.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be really great, Scotty.
Angie would love that.
I'm sure
Yeah.
she would. No. But you know what? Some really great, I think let's give some good vacation ideas at places and things to do if you do have little ones. Because now we've already covered you're not getting any bow chicky wow wow on the family vacation. You're staying in the same room.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. Like the Great Wolf Lodge. Again, that's a good one. What's been one of your favorite things in places that you've gone as a family that you would recommend?
Well, it's not the cheapest thing, but we did an RV trip through Alaska, and I
That's
thought that was,
amazing.
we almost did a cruise through Alaska. I'm so glad we did the RV to really experience it and go places that, it's not just the tourist place, but you could
Yeah.
take that RV wherever you want to go.
How many days did you drive for?
Gosh, I think we were there a couple of weeks,
Wow.
and yeah, it was fantastic. We stayed in Anchorage and then in Fairbanks, and then we stopped
Is
at,
this a big RV?
yeah, the big Class A
I just
RV
can't picture you driving one of
with
those.
the
I
with
don't
the
know.
slide outs,
Yep.
and yeah, and that made us, because we had such a good bonding time. It made us want to get an RV, and I think that's something that will happen when life allows.
I think that's great. That's a hard one, that to do is to drive one of those things and maneuver it. That's so scary. I can't even
They do
believe
give you
that.
a little training on that.
They do?
I
Yeah.
used to have a travel trailer that was 33 foot long tied to it, and I would have to hitch it to a Sierra. And trying to go into gas stations with that thing and pull turns or God forbid reverse, that was a scary thing. It is really fun though for kids, with the pullouts, and it's like you have your own little hotel room wherever you are. I do like when we do outdoor things. That sounds like a great trip, Scotty.
It
I think
was.
if other people on the West Coast are thinking of stuff, like in California, for example, there's seasons, and nobody wants to go to Arizona or Palm Springs when it's summertime, like their peak
Yeah,
seasons
it's so
tend to be
hot.
fall and spring. And so if you're willing to bake and go to a place like Palm Springs or Scottsdale, Arizona, you can find these beautiful resorts that have like lazy rivers. They have activities and movies at night for the kids. And if it's over 4th of July, they'll do 4th of July activities. They'll give you extra credits, for you get free meals at the hotel. So check out the packages. There's always a low season and a high season of destinations. And there are sometimes, especially in the summertime, where places get really hot and nobody goes there. It's not their peak season. And so you can get great deals as a family. And again, if you want that quality time with your partner, if the kids are playing on the water slides and riding around in tubes on the lazy river, they don't care about you. They're having the time of their life, they're meeting other kids, and it gives you a chance with your wife or your husband to get a little quality time and downtime.
Along with that, if you look in your area, and I don't know if people are living in different places in the world as they listen to this, but look for the small towns that have little festivals
Yep.
and little celebrations of something, and you go to those, it's such a really cool vibe. And even
That
uh
small town kind of vibe, right?
yes, I love those. I've come to really they have
Yeah.
the where Andy Griffith's show was based on is near where we are, Mount Airy. And I went over there, and it's like an old town. You go through, and it has the shops and the ice cream and the burgers, and it's just a really fun thing. But the other thing is the seasonal activities, like when the leaves change colors. I think it's, living in Hawaii, you kind of didn't really get it. Like when you're
Right.
here and you can find a high view and look down on all the amazing colors. So just find what nature offers as well and have that as an adventure.
Yeah. And speaking of Hawaii, if you have the money to do this, Disney Aulani. I mean, it's beautiful. It really is gorgeous. You remember the grand opening, Scotty? We were there
Oh
for
yeah.
that. When it was being built. The lagoons are absolutely beautiful. And again, they do have like the kids care kind of thing where, you can have that is one destination that it's all taken care of for you. You know what I mean? You're on this
Mhm.
beautiful property. They've got somebody to watch your kids. You can have that beautiful cocktail, wear the sexy lingerie while the kids are, playing. But that is a great destination. I highly recommend the Disney Aulani Resort.
I mean, you've got things on both ends of the spectrum there. Things that are basically free, go see nature, or
Yep.
plan a big trip like that and really be pampered. And include, there's also a great golf course there too, Colina.
Colina.
Well,
Yep.
like when you were talking about the small town things and how different they are, I've done a lot of cross country or just road trips into Yellowstone and Arizona and Utah, Colorado, and all of that. And I remember this one time in Kanab, if you know where that is, it's where Utah and Arizona hit. It's like this little tiny town. And it was 4th of July, and you see that like the festivities that they set up in these small towns, like the floats going down the main street. Like you don't see that when you live in a big city. You don't see a town where everybody knows each other and that's this person's kid or that's the coach of this team because they really celebrate differently and it's more of a community. And so I actually was very refreshed sometimes when you see a main street in some of these cute little downtowns and of the small towns in America. And I don't think a lot of people have seen those things. But to your other point, if you're an adult and you really want to go on a good vacation, like it's so important to have a kids club. I don't think I can like it's so worth whatever the extra cost of the place you're looking at. It will relax you if your kids are somewhere between the ages, let's say, of like 3 and 8. just to get them some friends, get their energy out, have them like winning little activities and things like that, and just give yourself a real vacation so that you're not shadowing them around all the time.
So are you saying, Alan, it's better to save up instead of just doing the easier, cheaper vacation? It's better to save up and wait a little bit until you can afford to do that kind of vacation with the kids. Would you recommend that or
You know what? I don't think people understand how cheap Mexico can be. And I think if you were to go into Expedia or Travelocity or things like that and look at some of those vacations they have in Cabo and Puerto Vallarta, and I mean, from California especially, you're talking about a Cabo is an hour and a half flight, Puerto Vallarta is a 2.5 hour flight. That's closer than New York. And so you're not really flying anywhere too significant. And if you're just staying on the resort, it's an easy vacation and it's actually much cheaper than people think. A lot of times kids are free. So when you put in the price of the hotel, what you'd pay on food, it just if it was the two of you, sometimes it's actually a good deal. So don't think that I mean, not everybody's going to go to the Disney resort that you guys are talking about, which I can imagine is exorbitantly expensive. But if you were willing to go to some of the, all-inclusives in Cancun or Puerto Vallarta or Acapulco, they're not unaffordable. You should check it out.
Well, yeah, I mean, you just do the math and figure out. I mean, if I'm not spending as much on airline at the hotel, whatever, you're gonna, so, shop around and figure out, because, here on the East Coast, we have a lot of historical things that we can visit.
Yep.
You can
yeah,
just drive and just do that. I'm sure that's that way in other parts of the country too, but there's a lot of that here. But also, we're closer to the Bahamas and, uh,
Uh,
other islands like that, and even Florida and the Keys and all those things. So you can probably find something like Hawaii closer to where you are and not have to spend all of that money flying there. But it is amazing if you do get there.
it is. It really is. I would like to do that one day. I've stayed at Coalina and my friend would rent a place, right there on the beach. And it was just, even just doing that, incredible. But again, we're talking about family vacations and things and how to maneuver it when you've got little ones. Because even though you've seen those photos on Instagram, it doesn't always look like that behind the scenes, with the kids having meltdowns and stuff.
And your family's no different than everybody else's family. Don't be
Right.
fooled, because truth is, we're all just people. Kids are just kids, and we're in a new place with not the normal things around us that make us feel like we're home, and you're on the move, and so you expect chaos. And then just embrace it.
but also when traveling with kids, don't you think it's important that you be a little bit kid friendly and respectful to other people? And what I mean by that is that like if I'm with my kids at an all-inclusive resort, I probably shouldn't go to the fancy steakhouse and take them out at an adult dinner time when people are on dates. And I think and the kids probably aren't going to have a good time either in a situation like that. So I do think that like if you're cool about it and you're kid friendly, because I used to always be scared that on an airplane people were going to say something if my kid was screaming or kicking the seat or crying. People don't. I really do feel like most people know what it was like to be a child themselves, or they had their own kids and they smile. It's not that embarrassing if your kid's acting up a little on a plane. And if you go to places like Denny's or family or Chili's or those kinds of family restaurants, nobody's
Hooters.
looking at you. Hooters, everybody is so used to people bringing children to places like that that if your kid is going under the table or drawing weird things with crayons, everybody's fine. And I like to be relaxed on vacation. I don't want to be in a fancy steakhouse or some sort of a five-star resort with a child because not only do I feel self-conscious, about the child being there with me, I know I'm affecting everybody else's vacation too.
Well, I mean, it's just like taking your kid to the movie. Wait until they get to a certain age where they understand how to sit in their chair and watch the movie. Everybody else paid a lot of money to see that movie, just because you want to see it, and you can block out your own kid
Yep.
because that frequency doesn't register you. It's registering with everybody else. So just be sensitive is all you're
Yeah,
saying,
it's
right?
so true. I remember times where you had to have a conversation once at the movie theaters with somebody. I remember way back in the day about bringing somebody's screaming kid and you're like, I'm trying to watch this movie, you know?
I
But
don't know. I don't remember that.
Oh, really?
Oh no, trust me.
Forced.
That you're getting me started. I won't even get into this totally, but I'll just say that is a pet peeve of mine. That if you can't afford a babysitter, don't see the movie. And that's just it. Don't take your kid to a movie on a Friday night that's an R-rated movie just because you don't have a babysitter and you want to see that movie. It's not cool. Let's respect people.
Hey, this sounds
Okay,
like another podcast we can
I
do at
know,
some
totally.
it does. This might become a two-parter, but just to end it, so that trip to Monterey in the nice hotel that we all shared, which was going to be romantic in my mind, which it was not. There was this restaurant that we were going to try and go to because it was also my birthday, and it was a seafood restaurant. And so one of the signs says, "No children allowed."
Hmm.
No children. Now, so our youngest didn't like that. Okay. He took it upon himself. He wanted to go and there was no exceptions. No children are coming, even if it was going to be well behaved. He wrote them a nasty Yelp review. And it was hilarious. I kid you not. We only found out about it after we had left. He says, I left a Yelp review for that place that I couldn't go to. I swear to you.
That is so funny. So
And it
that
wasn't.
how I mean, how old can you be to do a Yelp review? I just wonder, do they not have an age for
Never
that stuff?
underestimate tech and children that are
Uh,
above the age of 11 and what they're
Yeah.
capable of
And but
doing.
apparently this was the iron. Here's the kicker. His post generated all these other people who were on vacation to want to go to this well-known seafood place. No kids allowed. Obviously, they didn't have sitters either, like we didn't. So we couldn't just leave them. So there became this huge string of same thing happened to us. You can't do that. This is blah, blah, blah. Like it was crazy. Yeah. The restaurant, no kids allowed.
well, so you're basically raising another instigator just like yourself.
This is a good episode, and I think we can continue this on. I do want to give a shout out first in story, Aaron Barron. Tell me that is not the greatest name. Aaron Barron.
Love
Aaron
it.
Barron is from Virginia. And that's all I know, but loves the podcast. Looks forward to downloading it every time we put one out. Aaron, thank you so very much. And again,
Thanks, Aaron.
Mike in Mind on Facebook, on Instagram. Give our Instagram a little love. Mike and Mind podcast, and we will follow you back, and you'll get a chance to see some of the upcoming episodes. We've got a good one planned for Friday. I'm not going to spoil it, Scotty. I want you to you're going to be in the dark for
Oh,
this one. It's going to be a good one. Mike and Mine podcast. I'm Hudson Hot, Scotty Blaisdell, Alan Wagner, our resident therapist. Peace in the chicken grease.
see ya.
Till next time.